I was 13 when my whole life would change.
Annette, honey, we have something to tell you.
We figured it's about time. We're moving to Hong Kong so that Dad doesn't have to keep commuting back and forth from Tokyo to Hong Kong. Plus, I asked to get transferred there and the office had no objections. We're moving at the end of the school year.
What the hell? How can you guys be doing this to me? You said we'd stay until graduation. Plus, how are we gonna leave Grandma? She's gonna be here all alone.
This would be my entry point into the world of a third culture kid, although I wouldn't know the term until years later when I came across a BuzzFeed article about it. According to Pollock and Van Raken, a third culture kid is defined as an adolescent who has lived in a country that is not their home country nor their parents' home country. My father is an American while my mother is Japanese, and I was born in Japan and lived there for 13 years, and I spent the last 5 years of my life in Hong Kong. My life in Hong Kong as a third culture kid, or TCK, started on a rough patch. But being a third culture kid allowed me to obtain a unique sense of home and cultural identity because of my move and being exposed to new and diverse cultures. Through these unique stories, I hope I can shed light on what it means to be a TCK and the complex cultural identity that comes with it. Moving is hard for anybody, whether it is leaving home to attend college or moving to a totally new country. I really did struggle for the first few months in Hong Kong. I thought that people were rude, selfish, and inconsiderate. It was a complete change from Japanese culture, where people would always go out of their way to help you. I also had to make new friends and deal with my separation anxiety away from Tokyo, a place I called home for 13 years. Jean-Marc de Waal and Jean-Peter van Ovenhoven have highlighted the obstacles that TCKs must overcome, such as new cultures, linguistic difficulties, as well as changes in cultural norms. These kind of major adjustments can result in depression, stress, feeling of loss, loneliness, and loss of identity. Antonia Morales also mentions that a better system must be in place to help TCKs with their move in order to prevent these psychological obstacles. Meeting and spending time with other TCKs has helped me understand my situation better and helped me realize that I am not alone with the struggles of moving to a completely new country. Just within my friend group in high school, we represented 6 different nationalities. My friend Saki on the very left is Japanese. My friend Alex, second to the left, is half Swiss, half Chinese. My friend Pooja in the very middle is Indian. Myself, half Japanese, half American. And my friend Nicole on the very right, who is Hong Kong Chinese, and she also obtains a Canadian passport. Despite having these TCK friends, I cannot help but to wish that there was a better system in place to help with my transition not only to a new school, but also to Hong Kong culture. Perhaps a seminar would have helped, meetings with the group of new TCK students, or just advice from counselors on how to assimilate to Hong Kong culture. Where are you from is a question that I have been asked countless times. Even though this should be an easy question to answer, I basically have an existential crisis when answering this question.
So, where are you from?
Do you mean like where I was born?
I guess. Isn't that where you say you're from?
Or like what passports I have?
I mean, maybe that too.
Or like where I live right now? See, this is a hard question to answer.
And it's not only a hard question to answer for myself, but for all third culture kids. I interviewed a friend of mine, Kaya Hutchins, who is currently attending Wake Forest University. Kaya was born in Michigan to the parents of American citizens. However, she has spent the last 6 years of her life in Shanghai. When I asked her, "Where is home?" she gave me the classic TCK answer.
The age-old TCK worst nightmare question. So I guess right now Shanghai is home because I think I did the most of my emotional maturation there. And it's just where I think I had the most experiences and where I developed the most genuine friendships. I feel like I know the city and it's a part of me that's just never going to go away. But at the same time, when I'm in Shanghai, I think, oh, I get to go home for the summer. I get to go back to America. So it's a complicated relationship with identity.
Like I said, it's a hard question to answer.
Just like Kaya, I have accepted the fact that my identity is a juxtaposition of many different cultures. I have the Japanese side to myself, where I respect my elders and avoid invading people's space. A part of me identifies with American culture when I love to express my opinions. And of course, I have the Hong Kong side to myself, where I have little to no patience and am rushing everywhere because I booked myself up. But it's this complex cultural identity that makes me, me. Laura Cockburn expresses that TCKs with many different cultural backgrounds have a hard time grasping what their identities are. As a result, this complex identity results in an answer similar to mine when it comes to the question, where are you from? Those of us who are exposed to more than two cultures at an early age don't strongly identify with their present or host cultures. However, there are some basic characteristics that TCKs share: openness, strength, and positivity in order to assimilate to a new community. These three aspects have indeed become a part of my core identity. Because I have been exposed to many cultures from the places I lived, visited, and the cultures of my friends, I have become an open-minded person. Whenever I visit a new country, no matter how strange their culture may seem, I make sure to go into it with an open mind in order to fully understand their way of life and their cultural customs. Although it didn't seem like it at the time, my TCK experience has no doubt ultimately made me a stronger person so that I am better able to adapt to new situations. I found that when I first came to college, I quickly became accustomed to this new environment compared to my other dorm mates because the United States is the third country I've lived in, so I'm used to the move. And lastly, as a third culture kid, I have realized the importance of positivity. Being positive and thinking of the great opportunities ahead of me because of my TCK experience has led me to see the world and to obtain a greater global understanding. Without my positive attitude, I would have never been able to experience the cultures of places such as South Africa, Sri Lanka, and Turkey. This kind of exposure to new cultures has allowed me and other TCKs to become cultural chameleons, someone who has the need to adapt to different cultures and environments because change is constant in the TCK's lives. A study done by Jan Selmer and Jacob Loring examined the difference in adjustments of monocultural kids versus third culture kids when assimilating to Hong Kong culture. They concluded that third culture kids adjust better to new environments, everyday life, and multicultural skills for the exact reason that they are cultural chameleons. Being a cultural chameleon since moving to Hong Kong has worked in my advantage for many situations. Whenever I went on vacation with my family or on a school trip to a different country, I noticed that myself and my other TCK peers were easily able to pick up on the cultural behaviors. I remember a distinct trip where this became apparent to me. I was on a school trip to Mongolia at an orphanage when I noticed that the kids loved to play aggressively and wrestle each other. I wasn't used to this kind of play, but once I noticed that the adults weren't trying to break them apart, it became clear to me that this is how children play in Mongolia. I put my normal playing habits aside and decided to join in. But I also had the opposite experience last March when I went on another school trip to India. Children there were playing very differently from the Mongolian children due to the cultural differences. They preferred to play hand games rather than wrestle. As a result, I had to adjust myself again to India's cultural norms. In the 2006 to 2007 school year, there were about 273,000 TCKs in 153 different countries. All of these 273,000 kids have experienced the cultural complexities that come with being a TCK. And the reality is, because of globalization, there will continue to be an increase in the numbers of TCKs around the globe. These future third culture kids can be anyone, including your future children. They will inevitably experience what I did, not having a clear sense of home or initially having a hard time transitioning to a new culture. But they will also have wonderful and unique experiences, especially when they get to see and travel the world. I know I wasn't appreciative at the time, but I can't thank my parents enough now for deciding to move to Hong Kong. There's no doubt in my mind that my TCK experience is going to stick with me for the rest of my life, no matter what I decide to do in the future. Although it's hard to not call a clear place home, to some degree, it makes life more exciting. Because not feeling like I completely fit in anywhere allows me to some extent to fit in everywhere. Looking back at the BuzzFeed article I read all those years ago, 31 Signs You're a Third Culture Kid, it still exemplifies all the struggles, but also the exciting and unique parts of being a third culture kid. Some of these aspects include you can curse convincingly in 5 different languages, and you get nervous whenever a form needs you to enter a permanent address. But it's number 29 on the list that hits home for me. You now feel incredibly lucky to have loved ones and memories scattered all over the globe.